So this is Chancery Lane, and we are on our way to visit SeedLegals in their office. Looking forward to having a chat with them. Fantastic location, and I hear fantastic people. We'll see you inside. Hello and welcome to this episode of Startups of London. We are really honored to be here. Thank you for inviting us to your office.
Thank you.
So can you start by telling us who you are, what's your role in the company, and then we'll move on to actually talking about the business. I'm really looking forward to that.
Sure. I'm Anthony Rose. I'm founder and CEO at SeedLegals. I used to head up BBC iPlayer. After I left the BBC, I built a startup. I sold it. I built another one, sold it, invested in a few, got tired of paying my lawyers, met my business partner, Laurent Lafitte, an ex-VC and serial angel investor. We got together and decided to change that.
So can you start by telling us your core value proposition to your users and customers?
Sure. So if you're a startup, you're a founder, you've incorporated, you have an idea, you know that you have to build a product. But then there's this dark pit of all the legal stuff you have to do. And you could search around to try and find the answers, or you could go to SeedLegals.
Mm-hmm. And where does the similarity of the problems your potential users and customers experience come into this? Is that actually a part of the business model?
Absolutely. So what's fascinating is that every startup idea is different, but funding rounds are remarkably self-similar. I'm raising £150,000. I'm raising £500,000. I've got SEIS investors. I've got a fund. I want to give away 15% equity. It turns out they're all very much the same. They fall into a few bands. But the problem is the way people went to law firms in the past, each founder is discovering, as if they're the first person in the world, what it's like. And it turns out that as a result, you go to your lawyer and they swing the pendulum insanely in your favor. And then I go to my lawyer and they swing it back in my favor. And then we argue for ages, spend thousands of pounds on legal fees and settle in the middle. My goal is to show you market data that shows you where everyone settles, to show you actually you can skip all the drama and you can educate both parties to get the best deal for both.
It all actually makes perfect sense when you think about it. Such a business should exist. I think it's the type of thing that people say, where was this all my life?
Exactly.
But I guess there are challenges with that, and there must have been, along your path, points where you need to iterate the business or the value proposition, or maybe not. But if so, I would really want to hear about those. So what were some of the challenges?
Great question. I'd like to have a dramatic story to say we tried and we pivoted, it didn't work. Actually, the business today is almost exactly as we had envisaged it. But what I think is fascinating is, as a founder, there is always some key problem that you need to solve in your business. And people often start by solving the easy problems, and they should focus on solving the hard problems. My business partner and I have been around for a while, so we knew we could fund it, we knew we could build it, and we'd spoken to enough startups to know that people would want it. The way we needed to launch was the way that I suppose it's commonly called fake it till you make it, which is behind the scenes, you doing all the frantic paddling. What we learned, is that not only do startup founders love it, which we thought would be the case, but very quickly we learned that investors love it as well.
So can you tell me a bit about your history of funding and receiving investment as SeedLegals?
My theory, which is all very existential, is that funding rounds you might think about as ripples in a pond. So it starts with the one or two founders or three founders sometimes have an idea. And no one invests just on a PowerPoint presentation because ideas are cheap and implementation's expensive. So our data, and you'll hear me talk about data a lot, indicates that the founders put in a median of £26,000 of their own money to build a prototype, MVP, whatever it is, to get investment. That then leads to a natural pattern that we see in the UK, particularly driven around SEIS and EIS investment. So the founders might put in £20,000 of their own money. Then maybe they'll raise £70,000 from friends and family in a classic bootstrap round. Or they might go for an SEIS £150,000 round. And then they may raise £500,000 seed, and then maybe do 1.5 million Series A, and from there you progress. And when I talk to a room of founders at an accelerator and so on, although it sounds existential, the ripples in the pond, when you imagine it that way, suddenly there's clarity. Everything you're doing is about not just getting love from your consumers and so on, it's about getting to the next step. Because if you don't get to the next step, there is no future.
Let's just put a pin on that and talk about living. I don't know if you live in London, but especially working in London and having a startup in London. What do you love about it? What do you hate about it? And what should startups think about setting up a business in London, if you have any suggestions for them?
I totally love London. I mean, there's an endless amount of, both personally things to get around. I've spent enough time in, New York, LA, San Francisco. New York's just too frenetic. LA, you'll spend all your time on the highway. It's a disaster. San Francisco is a bit closed and insular. And London is really good. But for me, my goal is to grow a team who live together, play together, work together. The team are part of the products, and the team listen to your customers and build things together. I love the fact that London has a huge population. I mean, in terms of our customers who are startups, it's a brilliant hub.
Can you tell me about the growth story of your company in terms of the people and culture? I mean, in terms of both size, and how has your company culture evolved through these stages?
I guess one of the key maybe decisions as a founder is, do you try to grow your company organically? So particularly if you're in a business where the company's making revenue. So, if you're in a social media business, you may not make any revenue till you're huge. But for most UK companies, the goal is to make some revenue. And now you can grow organically. So as you get a bit more monthly revenue, you hire another person or two. Or the alternative is you can drink the Silicon Valley Kool-Aid and you can raise huge amounts and grow like crazy, which means either you own the world or you collapse spectacularly. Our metrics show that the majority of startups have got 2 founders, sometimes it's 1 and sometimes 3. And I hugely enjoy working with my business partner. In many cases, we see the opposite to a problem. In many cases, it's the same. Having that co-founder that you can bounce ideas off is important.
My name is Konstantinos. I've been working here for the past 6 months. My main area of expertise is option schemes. So basically helping other startups give equity to their employees. We facilitate this process, we automate it, and we have been developing the product ever since. And yes, so my main responsibilities are to ensure that every company that comes on the platform gets the best treatment as possible.
Well, I'm Noelle, I'm head of growth here at SeedLegals. I joined 2.5 years ago, so second employee.
Wow.
So I've seen the business grow from 3 to 35 people. My role is customer acquisition, so targeting startups and investors and making sure as many people as possible know about SeedLegals.
So how would you describe the company culture and working here?
Oh, it's very relaxed. Everybody's in great spirits every day. There is great room for creativity, and we have seen huge development by every week, I would say.
Is there anything you'd like to add for people who might in the future think about joining this company?
Well, I would say that I would definitely encourage them to look at it. There are many great opportunities here at SeedLegals, and we've been expanding ever since. So I joined as an 18th employee, I believe, and now we're about 35. So there's huge room for development. There are new things happening every day. And as I say, the most important thing would be the room for creativity that we allow here.
I'd agree with that. In terms of the creativity you're allowed to do at SeedLegals, because we're doing something that's never been done before, you have to think outside of the box. You have to throw all the old rules out the window and come up with a way to to solve unique problems, and you'll be the first to do them.
Talking of personalities, for people who are potentially listening and are interested with the idea of being a part of the SeedLegals team, what kind of personalities, if any, are you looking for? So entrepreneurial approach is definitely one of them. I got that. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Sure. Well, of course, apart from the personality, there's also the role. And I guess our roles probably fall into three groups. Software developers, we're always looking for fabulous developers. It's all about Angular, it's about Java. That's our stack. The second thing is people in our legal team. And so here it's fascinating because it turns out there are endless numbers of people who study law and then don't want to be a lawyer, or at least don't want to work for a law firm. And number three is sales and marketing. So really the core constituents of that, those are the people we're looking for.
A big part of building a business today is actually about bringing the right components together. A big part of that is people. A huge part of that is understanding the market and positioning in the right way. But I also personally think, and try to make a habit of bringing this up in similar conversations, is the tech tools that you use to build the business up and that you depend on and you're over fan of.
Undoubtedly, the most important tool in my view is Intercom. So Intercom, is simply a bit of JavaScript you set on your web page, and when a customer comes to your website, it will pop up and they can talk to you. Instead of people visiting a website and having to be there alone, it's now a conversation. And our customers tell us we've built a man plus machine interface. Intercom for me does two things. One, it helps the entire company be completely customer driven in its development, because we all listen to the customer constantly. And the second thing, it turns a drive-by customer visiting your site into a lead and a returning one and a conversation.
So focusing on future for a moment, what are some milestones that you think are ahead for SeedLegals?
My goal is to help companies transform the way they grow by taking care of a whole lot of things dramatically easier. So I would probably put that in a few phases. So phase one, help startups do their funding rounds sooner, faster, better. Phase two, as those companies start growing on SeedLegals, offer a growing set of products, share transfers, share option schemes, EMI schemes, that as the companies grow, I can grow with them. Step three is grow to other territories. So in the same way that TransferWise gives you borderless banking, imagine borderless legals. Imagine you want to invest in a French company today. You'd have no idea where to start. But imagine you can log into SeedLegals and you can see the deal terms. Do you want drag-along rights? What share class do you have? How many directors? All in English. And then you can have the term sheet rendered in French or in English. And you can see it alongside all of your other investments, be they be in different countries. In a single interface, we've teased out the deal terms that are the same across all countries. So the next thing will be borderless legals and the ability to homogenize across Europe and beyond, that investors can easily invest in other countries. The next thing is two sides of the market. So today, if my audience, my customers are startups, what if investors could hop on the platform and send out a term sheet or deal documents, and then both parties can close in a frictionless way? That would be amazing.
I mean, for me, the mark of a truly inspiring conversation is whether it makes you think about the future in such a way you feel a hunger towards it, and imagine there are so many things to do, so many new business ideas to bring to life, and this has been such a conversation. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I think one of the things I loved, again, talking to startup founders, there's so many things where the world is dreary, people bumming and doing these things, and it's so nice to be in a world where you've got people with unbridled optimism for the future. So, and if we can help, remove the friction of that, so much the better.